My name's John Marston. You wanted to speak to me.
Red Dead Redemption. I ended up picking this up after all just to see for myself whether if this game was really worth the money. I feel it's much better that I experience or you personally experience something rather than just fly off the handle and bash something just because you view it as pointless or you're disappointed or you're upset or something about this pisses you off or you just want to echo someone else because you value their opinion and you follow that blindly. Of course, people are naturally going to do that, but I just think that that's the best way to go about situations like this. Either way, I've spent roughly 20 or so hours in this version of the game. I actually recently beat it on the Xbox Series S through Xbox's backwards compatibility feature, so I was going into this game with a fresh idea of what it was already like in its most current available state prior to this release, of course. And bottom line is, if you have a modern Xbox console, there's no reason at all to pick this up. For the asking price of $50 US, what you're getting in return, I just don't think it's worth it at all, especially if you already have the means to play the game. There's no improved frame rate, there's no unlocked frame rate, there's no stable 60 FPS, there's no graphical improvements, there's no improvement in AI. Gunplay feels the same. Everything is the exact same. It's basically just a port. Now, don't get me wrong, I do believe there are some reasons to still be grateful for this port, mainly for those that decided to pick this up on the Switch. I think Red Dead Redemption is one of Rockstar's greatest games of all time, narratively speaking, and of course character-wise. It's definitely a great game to be having the luxury of picking it up and playing on the go. I personally don't have a Switch, so I can't speak for it directly, but if this is the version that you get on the Switch, I think less people would have put up a fuss about it. I think having this port strictly for the Switch and then saving a true remaster for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and the newer Xboxes, and then plus a PC version would have been a home run for Rockstar. I think the smarter decision would have been, hey, let's make this port strictly for the Switch, not mention anything about PlayStation consoles. You know, if people want to play this game, people are finding ways to emulate it on PC, and besides that, we'll keep it strictly to for the Xbox consoles as of right now. If they would have released just the Switch port, it would have generated a lot of talk. Frankly, talk that would have been both good and bad, but I believe it would have gotten this game into the spotlight as a sort of reminder that, hey, this game exists, that, hey, even though Red Dead Redemption 2 is still doing somewhat decent sales here and there, is often constantly going on sale, its sequel that came up before that established the character of John Marston, his story of redemption, and trying to establish his life of normalcy still exists. It's still a game, and bringing it to the Switch specifically would have done a lot. It would have been a signal to the industry that, hey, this game that really pushed the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 to its limits back when it first launched is now fully playable on a portable console. They wouldn't have to put, at least from my perspective, right? I don't know that much about video game development or much about programming behind the scenes, so I don't want to overspeak here, but from my perspective, just knowing the surface that a lot of people do, if they put in as much effort that they did here, which the general consensus is they put in very minimal and they really didn't do all that much, if they would have put in that much bare minimum effort on just the Switch, it would have generated a lot of hype, a lot of excitement. It would have brought this game back into the public's eye. It would have generated, as I was speaking, some talk that was both positive and negative. Positive being, hey, Rockstar's paying attention to their older games again. This port came out on the Switch. As I was saying, technology is now advanced to the point where you can take it on the go wherever you want. It would have generated a lot of hope as well that, hey, if they're going to come out with a port for the Nintendo Switch, there was never an official PC port. Maybe PC players can finally experience this for themselves. Or if Rockstar's paying attention to the back catalog of games, and there was rumors in the past of Grand Theft Auto 4 and even Red Dead Redemption itself getting some type of remake or remaster, then hey, we see that Rockstar looking at their back catalog of games. They use this port for the Switch. PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X are so much more powerful now. Maybe we really will see a remaster, an official remaster. And the port would have also been a little bit of a financial tester for Rockstar. As I was saying in my last video, it doesn't seem like Rockstar is so gun-ho about reinvesting in themselves, so whatever requires the bare minimum in terms of effort, so that way they can get as much return as possible, seems to be the direction they're headed in. So just strictly a Switch port by itself of this caliber, I think, would have sufficed greatly. I mean, even if they wanted to incorporate the newer consoles, right, on some level, they could have done the bare minimum again by getting this a stable 60 FPS and unlocking the frame rate on modern Xboxes. I think that would have been a giant win as well. Hey, let's unlock the frame rate on modern Xboxes. They didn't even have to do a PlayStation port just yet. Let's unlock the frame rate on modern Xboxes, and then let's do the Switch port and see what the reception of just those two things are. Then they could have tested the water, but unfortunately they decided to put out a PlayStation port that is just what it is on Xbox, with a very minuscule amount of changes, if any. Playing this on the Xbox Series S after 10 plus years since this game's release, I've noticed the handling of horses to be a bit clunky, and the gunfighting or shooting to not be as heavy or impactful as I remembered it to be. The herding missions are also still boring, and thanks to the cattle's horrible AI, it's a bit of a pain in the ass. None of these are addressed or improved in the PS4, PlayStation 5 version. Shit. Horse AI, when you call them, suck too, with it sometimes running away from you. That is also still there on the PlayStation port. Ultimately, the port is, as I was saying, good for one main thing: accessibility. It's now an officially sanctioned Rockstar release for PlayStation players, and what I'd say is a bigger win is Switch owners. I don't see the purpose in really echoing the sentiments of everyone else with how much more this port could have been. It's just Red Dead Redemption on the PlayStation, and unless you want it on that platform or even on a Switch, I'd say save your money because it's not really worth it. The only positive thing outside this game's accessibility is, I've noticed in the PS5 specifically, I haven't tried it on the PlayStation 4, is missions load pretty much instantaneously. So while there are still loading screens, it does take but a second. I mean, I don't even know the name of some of these missions sometimes because the game boots up so damn quick. But $50 quick? I don't think so. In the grand scheme of things, I will say the port had another massive purpose outside of just allowing those tied to two different platforms the ability to revisit this iconic game. It brought the original Red Dead Redemption back into the spotlight, a game that, thanks to its own achievement in character development, storytelling, and world building, helped give us a prequel that still is yet to be surpassed by any other game in size, attention to detail, and tear-jerking narrative. Red Dead Redemption may not have gotten the proper love, care, and appreciation as it deserves here, but at least it was at the very least given a second chance at life. For really a new generation of gamers to experience, John Marston struggled to leave his past life and redeem himself in a society that he, or his entire life, tried his hardest to rebel against. A life surrounded by brothers who had a similar mentality and resistance to the same society, he's now aligned himself with in an effort to establish some type of normalcy for himself and his wife and son. Where there should have been so much more done for this game to get the proper work it deserves, we can at least praise the original foundation and reception of this game for what it is, what it was, and what it achieved back when it was the newest thing by Rockstar. Back when it showed Rockstar that taking chances on something new can pay off in many more ways than anyone really can ever imagine. I hope to return to this experience in all its glory, as well as its masterpiece of a DLC, the Undead Nightmare. As honestly, even though the horses, truthfully one of the bigger things I think they should have at least improved on, can be a pain in the ass to try to operate, the DLC and even the base game as a whole is one that deserves to be cherished. Really it's a time capsule of Rockstar's earlier endeavors that are a part of many people's childhoods. I'm gonna wrap this video up with, while extremely disappointed with this bare bones port, I am grateful for those that don't have any other way to experience one of the best games from so many people's childhoods. A game that unfortunately, at least with this port, just has nostalgia and curiosity behind it.